Hey there, my name is Ed Howie, and this is Howie Grow a Brand.
1, 2, 3.
If you like what you learned from this video, help us promote this channel by clicking the like button below or subscribing to our channel. So you ready to go? Let's get into today's chat. Actionable insights are direct, meaningful actions that can be taken from analyzing any type of raw data. As an entrepreneur, how do you decipher that data correctly and avoid making costly mistakes? Well, one of the first costly mistakes you can actually make is spending too much money on research, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We're talking with organizational leadership expert Denise Cumberland, Ph.D. Dr. Denise Cumberland is an insight-driven marketer focusing on consumers and how data can help bring those insights to light into reality. She's also associate professor at the University of Louisville, teaching both in the MS Human Resource Education Program and the BS Organizational Leadership and Learning Program. Denise is a great friend, a great colleague, and a super sharp mind. And we're going to talk about how it is as we as business leaders can take all the data that we receive and process it in a way that we know which actions to take and which actions to avoid. Okay, Denise, it's good to be visiting again. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, Ed.
So let's talk about on the larger scale first. How have you seen larger companies with more resources use marketing research or consumer insights more powerfully? And how have you seen them miss?
Okay. I think from a larger organization, obviously resources are often more available, and being more available means you can have more ways to touch points to communicate and inquire. So whether it's surveys or focus groups or ethnographic studies where you go out and spend time with your consumers, all of that gives you the broad perspective. So I think sometimes larger organizations can spend more time and money. At times, I think that can be valuable, but we both know there's a trade-off, right? So the more time and money you spend, the longer it takes to get things to market, the longer it takes to get through a process. So in a world where things are changing rapidly, you sometimes need to have places that are shortcuts, that are faster. So I think large organizations, at least I know the one I came from, they tried to set up a dual system for what we'll call the traditional process of market research, and then there would be the sandbox where you have to be able to be more nimble. So I think smaller companies, again, resource challenged, can sometimes be very creative in how they come up with information, as long as it's done with, again, guidance and not just talking to three people and making a decision. Although in an emergency, sometimes we have to do that, right? So again, everything is context specific. So I like to say that, you have to realize that there are times when you have to make a decision and you don't have enough time to go out and gather more data.
And so you mentioned basically logic plus gut.
Yes.
A lot of times the gut is discounted by us individually as business owners or as humans, and sometimes collectively by our community. How do you balance the logic and the gut, the data and the gut?
Well, I think the longer you've been doing something and the more you know your customer base or your employees, your gut gets better. So over time, we all become more, our hunches, our gut, whatever you want to call it, our intuition, gets stronger than if we first walk into an organization. So I think you have to realize that time can be your friend in terms of sharpening your instincts, your intuition. So and the more time you spend talking to customers, talking to employees, the more you kind of know how to sift through that and get a confidence in your own sense of understanding about those folks.
We had a conversation with a client just last week that in the true spirit of wanting to get it right, we were having a conversation about research on some messaging, and the CEO basically said, well, I just want it to validate that the message is right. And I was like, that's not going to happen. This is not going to validate anything. It may give you higher probability of success. It may give you insights of a certain toggle or notion that resonates more than others, but nothing is foolproof based on market research.
Nothing.
Would you agree with that?
That's Absolutely true. And again, context always matters. So even if you could say the world is identical, it could still change, because you never know about what consumers' moods were in when they answered questions, or employees, their ability to feel they could speak freely, they're wanting to be nice, being ticked off. There's so many variables that go into humans, that the reality is we have to work with a sense of that nothing is 100% confidence. You're just trying to get closer.
So in trying to get closer, one of the things that that we have looked at in the past before with market research is that when you are trying to present a new idea, that sometimes the customer can't grasp it, therefore they can't give you insights, probability. Can you talk a little about that with new ideas and how you kind of test the water with new ideas?
Absolutely. It is really hard for consumers to imagine, and this is, again, speaking broadly, there's certainly some people who are very different in terms of their creative juices and they can envision things, but I'll go with the theory of 80%. So 80% of us are pretty much locked into what we know. And so we base our thoughts about what we need based on what we know. So back when the iPhone came out, I remember being the first person to say, I don't need a camera in my phone. Everyone's probably laughing now, right? I was like, oh, a basic phone. And now I couldn't live without the camera in my phone. And it's so helpful when I need to be at the store and remember something. But I didn't know that, 15 years ago, because I had a camera, right? So I couldn't imagine needing something that was, so I think we become limited by what we know and what we think we need. So innovators who are trying to break those dimensions and create things that we haven't thought of, they put it in front of consumers and they just can't give you good feedback. I mean, you and I were in the food industry, and I just want to say that, I'm going to give everybody a tip. Coleslaw is really good on a chicken sandwich, but unless you're from a certain part of the world where coleslaw is put on sandwiches, I would hear consumers say, you don't put coleslaw on sandwiches, because they could. And then when they ate it, they loved it. But how do you advertise something that you can't talk about?
Right.
Because people, and my other favorite story was Chipotle sauce. People couldn't pronounce it at first. So a brand that doesn't have any money can't go out and educate people on this term. But we wrote off a lot of Chipotle sauce at my organization.
Well, I remember living in Atlanta. We had this recipe for cilantro. This is like the mid-90s. And none of the mainstream grocery stores had cilantro in the produce section. But now look, and it's everywhere. As we look at this, and the reality is that you need to listen to your customers. A couple of my takeaways are: don't spend more money than you're willing to lose, because the data is not necessarily going to be foolproof.
Correct.
And second is that if you're going to innovate, you better plan for some waste, because the first day to market, your customers, if it's truly unique, your customers not going to understand it. And you got to have some money baked in to handle product, whether it's food or something else, as well as you've got to invest in educating your consumers, because if they don't know you have it, they don't know to buy it.
Absolutely. A threshold there for a little bit of pain while you're trying to get it to market, because there's going to be a little pain involved.
Or a lot of pain.
A lot, depending on, yes.
But you know what? But it's like I learned at HEB, in the scale of HEB, the scale of companies we worked for, when you have a big win, it's a big win. When you have a big miss, it's a big miss, but it takes some of the misses to get the wins.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Denise.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Hope this helps and inspires your day. If any of this works in your business this week, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, or hey, just message me. And if you haven't done so already, please take a bit of time and like and subscribe to our channel. See you soon.